said, going natural is more than just achieving a good twist out or a bomb wash and go. It's a mentality of coming to realize your hair is good enough and always has been. No matter what texture it is, it's good hair, period. Can you elaborate and expound upon that tweet that you posted? Because I really felt that in my spirit.
Yeah, it was like basically the whole thing of, because I know a lot of people when they go natural, they look at someone else's hair and they want that hair. Yeah. When it's not really about trying to achieve someone else's hairstyle, it's trying to achieve happiness within, meaning I'm happy with my hair, whatever texture it comes out, whatever it's going to do, I'm going to be happy with it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to love it, and I'm going to let people know I love it, and nobody can ever tell me anything that's going to make me feel otherwise. Because a lot of times people try and, tell you stuff when you go natural about, oh, it doesn't look good, or oh, why would you cut it so short? Mm-hmm. It means nothing. You're happy with your hair exactly the way it is, and our hair has always been good enough. We just didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know because we didn't see it, and honestly, we don't even have to see. We don't have to see it in movies and stuff. We know. Now we know. Exactly. We don't need to have them validated by putting it in the movies, putting it in magazines. But at the same time, you see they put it in the movies. They're putting it in the magazines because they know it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's one of those things, somebody told me recently, like, gravity holds everything down, right? Our hair defies gravity.
This is true. Right? This is true.
Can't nobody tell me nothing. Like, and when you said about perfection and like you weren't worried about perfection, to me, you have reached perfection because now you are perfect the way you are. This is how you were born. This is how you were meant to be. Now, don't get me wrong. My sister, it has been natural for years, like over 10 years. And she presses her hair and people give her slack about it. I just don't think it's that serious. Yes, I have the biggest afro, but I just don't think it's that serious. And I feel like we're kind of starting to get a little too hard and kind of break off these groups, almost like different churches where we have these different beliefs when it comes to being natural. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think we need to do all of that because it's like, we just get it together. Let the girls play and have fun. Let's just enjoy the fact that we are here and we're good and we finally realize who we are. Like, to me, I know when I went natural, I feel like that's when I truly found myself. Like, that's when I had a confidence that nobody could tell me.
Exactly. With texturism. We have racism, discrimination in different ways, but texturism is a thing in the natural community. What's your take on that?
Angel, can I be vulnerable with you real quick?
And that's what I'm here for, sis.
Growing up, I went through it real bad. I always wanted super loose curly hair. I can admit that of myself. Now I don't think that I treat people differently based on that, but I know how I feel on the inside. Yeah. When I see somebody get out the pool and their little curls be like popping and it can air dry and it still looks nice. Because my clothes look fine when they wet too, but when they dry, it's a hot, frizzy mess. So like, I honestly can admit that I have experienced texture in me, and that's something that I even go through when I'm doing twist outs or setting my hair or whatever. That's an attempt to like have that definition that I've always wanted. So even like this little curl right here is the result of a twist out. Mm-hmm. So just learning techniques to try to get that ringlet curl. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not the same as your question in terms of like discrimination towards it, but in terms of feeling some type of way, yes. I've personally been on the giving end. But like I said, I'm not sure I've ever vocalized it or treated anybody differently, but I know it's certain YouTubers that I kind of gravitated to earlier in my journey than others. And now I've learned to look at things differently and I've grown a lot. But when I first started, I followed all the light-skinned girls. I won't even lie. I really did.
And you know what? That's a good point. Segueing into, because you're my radio sis, working, you've done amazing things in radio, working with, the #1 platform in hip hop, Hot 97, some of the, well, it's the resume. But
hearing it out loud is so like, whoa.
But being that, they are one of the voices of hip hop, do you feel like hip hop has truly embraced natural hair? You said the natural journey to me is all about freedom to celebrate who I am. Whether I'm rocking my natural curly fro or living life to the fullest with my braids, it's my freedom and it's who I am. Mm-hmm. So freedom by definition is the state of being able to move unrestricted.
Yeah, move,
So-
live, be.
Exactly. So with that being said, at what point did you feel this freedom, and what was the catalyst for that?
Well, I guess I can take it back to just moving to LA, a new beginning, a new fresh start, a new perspective on life in general. So I started with a big chop, and I literally secluded myself for that entire year. With my hair, I crowned myself with a head wrap for an entire year. I stayed celibate. Like, I really went into a deep healing situation. And with being in that, I just got so many downloads. I just got so many confirmations. And then coming out of it, that's when I was like, I have to just be who I am. I can't worry about someone judging me on my hair, whether I wear makeup or not. It was just me walking in my freedom.
I love that. I mean, there are many women that can attest to that, but I thought of one of the high-profile cases that was Serena Williams.
Definitely.
And her experience. Can you walk us through what your understanding was of that situation?
Yes. So Serena Williams, as most people know, is an amazing athlete. You know, she's so athletic and healthy and focuses on her nutrition, and she works out a lot. And she had a planned pregnancy and actually was very active during her pregnancy and played, you know, up until the mid-second trimester. But she had preeclampsia like a lot of African-American women do, because we're just kind of one of those things we're unfortunately predisposed to, and had hypertension, had a cesarean section, and had some acute chest pain, shortness of breath. And there was a delay in diagnosis, but later was found out that she had a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot in her lung, which can result in immediate death. And you know, had she not advocated for herself, like, something is wrong, like this is not okay. This isn't just normal post-operative pain.
Yes.
I'm not just swollen because of preeclampsia. Like, this is worse. There's something going on here. You know, she almost died, and I just think that it's like it's absolutely astounding to me that you can have someone who has private insurance, who's a celebrity, who is in peak physical fitness,
Yes.
takes care of themselves, who's very aware of their body because of how athletic they are, and they can almost succumb to childbirth complications. It's just, we have to do better. But Serena is also an example of someone who's used what happened to her to create positive change in the future. She now has apps that advertise services in a woman's community where they can find out about services that support them for their pregnancy, how to acquire insurance, how to find a doula, how to find someone to help you, have proper transportation to your prenatal appointments, nutritional information. And so she has just done so much from experiencing that near-death experience. It's awesome.
Amazing. That is so amazing. You know, there's a saying that to be an entrepreneur, you have to be able to see in the darkness. And on the front end, on the front end of Chocolate Peaches and Curls, you know, were there ever, before the best-selling products came, before the award-winning recognitions and acknowledgments in major publications, before all of these things formulated, were there ever seasons of darkness or doubt in Chocolate Peaches and Curls, and how did you push through those seasons?
Definitely seasons. Many seasons where I wanted to quit. Because when you are talking about getting into the beauty space, there are things that you need to be able to do. And sometimes the blueprint isn't there. You know, it may seemingly be there. People may appear to share, but there's a lot of trial and error. And so I made mistakes along the way. When I first launched the line, I had a men's line, a hair line, the body line. Like, I had to understand that wasn't going to work, that I couldn't handle all of that. I had to focus on what was my passion, what I was most committed to. And even though those other products sold, I had to focus on the very thing that I knew was going to help the most women. So, but those seasons of doubt, for sure, they still come. We just secured a warehouse space, our first warehouse space, and I was terrified to leave. You still have to do it. You still have to do it afraid, because sometimes you may think that the season, like you're in your rut season. This season should be my worst season. My business has tripled in the middle of a pandemic.
Amazing.
So out of the darkness comes the light when you're willing to do the work, because you can't just say I want it. You can't even just say that you're grateful and try to manifest things and give thanks to God without action. Gratitude plus grind. That's something that I've said for years. Gratitude, give thanks, but put in that work. And you have to make sure that you have people around you that when that dark moment comes, because you've gotten the phone calls, Kara's gotten the phone calls. I'm done. I want to quit. And y'all like, Juanita, this is your baby. You love what you do. You got to push through. And so that's, having people around you to support you, that's definitely a way to make sure you're able to push through those difficult times.
Now, we're not going to just, slide past you getting into the beauty space. We're going to acknowledge the fact that you have an amazing beauty business called Irie Beauty, and you created a lash line specific for women or people with albinism. What was your inspiration behind launching such a groundbreaking beauty product?
Okay, so it was kind of by accident that everyone found out about it, because I literally had created the products just for the beauty chat. It's a private group on Facebook. So I had asked like over a year ago, like what kind of products did they need that they would want to find in one place. So I was kind of like playing with the idea of maybe a subscription box, send out a few different colors of makeup products that they can play around with, and just things that are hard for us to find, like eyebrow pencils. We have a hard time finding colors that match. They want other color mascaras and things like that other than just black. But lashes was the big thing. They were like, oh, I really wish that we had blonde lashes. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to figure out what we can do about that. And once I found a way to make those lashes happen, I decided to design the packaging, because one of the things about products is that we never see ourselves represented in the marketing. I've seen a few campaigns recently where the brands have a model with albinism in store, like we see them on the displays. So I wanted to see that, in the products and the marketing, is that we're included. But it really was just for a small group of women. There was like 30 women who I knew were interested in it, and I created the line with just 30 boxes.
Nice.
But when I posted it, it went viral within hours and sold out immediately. And I was like, oh snap, I got a problem now. Because everybody's like, when are you gonna have more lashes? And it was not just women with albinism, but there was women with blonde hair, women with red hair said, can you make us a lash too? And I said, okay, I got it for you. And we had the auburn color come out. I've had ladies asking for black lashes too. And there's all kinds of places you can find black lashes, but I'm bringing black lashes for them also. So, and now we also have mascaras coming out in different colors, and I got a lip gloss coming out, and we're just trying to build it up into a bigger makeup brand. So it's not just specifically for women with albinism, but I've also had girls with vitiligo or who have hyperpigmentation in one side of their face. Like, can you get me a lash that's black on one side and blonde on the other side? And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, we can do that. So, it's a lot of things that just you can't really find it, on at Sephora or something, like at the regular beauty market. So
that's amazing. Exactly. And so with me being on your couch right now, what are 3 suggestions you would give me based on the overall, situation and scenario that is my life?
So one of the first things that I would recommend is similar to therapy. Find someone who you trust that you can talk to. Not just talk to, but someone who you can trust that you feel supports you. It's super important for us to have a support system. It is so hard to do things on our own. Secondly, I would say if people are dealing with things like thoughts in their head or anxiety, something that I practice and that has been helpful for me has been journaling or writing things down. I feel like I keep a lot of things inside, and then it makes me feel like nasty, like yucky, like, you know, like it might be a stomach ache, it might just be just a feeling of unease. So when I write how I'm feeling down, whether that's in form of a prayer or a story or, you know, however you want to write it, you can write a novel if you want. I find that it helps. It kind of gets those feelings out so they're not just like festering inside. Like something about on the paper and write provides relief for me, and it has been helpful for a lot of other people. So journaling is definitely helpful.
Okay.
The third thing I would say is, I'm going to be broad and say be aware and conscious of your health, because I want to include two things. I want to include it's really important to care and know what we're putting into our bodies, and it's also very important to exercise. I'll talk a little bit about both, but and I find myself doing this. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood, so I'm like I want a Popeye's chicken sandwich, and then I just want to now the rest of the day. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then the next day I'm like, oh, well, now I want pizza. Oh, now I want this. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of feeding my mood and just being like, okay, what I need to do is probably get up and maybe go ride my bike for 30 minutes. Because after I do that, I already know I'm going to feel better. Like, I'm going to feel energized. I'm going to feel better about myself.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I don't usually feel that bad if I have a cheat meal or I eat something that's not healthy. But when you do it repeatedly, you know,
that's when it becomes an issue. Exactly.
And it's just not healthy for us, you know? And now is the time when a lot of people are just kind of taking like a evaluation of their life and looking at certain things, like the products they buy, who you're spending your time around with, you know what I mean? So to be
detoxifying,
right,
detoxifying in the midst of a toxic atmosphere right now.
Right. Like the least we can do is try to focus on the things that we can control, because there's so much out of our control right now.
Absolutely.
Very important to focus on, okay, what can I control? What can I do that will serve me in a positive way?
Yeah.
You know, because there are plenty of things we can choose, and sometimes we serve the thing that doesn't serve us very well.
That's so good.
You know, and
yes.
And then we feel the results of that later.
And so, that's such a good point. So, I mean, I know that, you know, of course, people love to say, oh, these are rich people's problems and they have money and all of that. There are some fundamental relationship red flags that you can look out for. So for everybody that's watching, or anybody in a relationship or marriage, what would be some of the red flags that would prevent people from ending up in an entanglement in their relationships?
Yeah, I always talk about what's known as the top 3 relationship killers. Like, if you know what these 3 are, if you make sure that your relationship is locked and solid in these 3 areas, that will help you from preventing you from going down the entanglement road, any type of road at this point. Because I did some research, I talked to a lot of divorce attorneys and like people who deal with this realm, and I was like, you know what? Who is out here getting divorced? Why are relationships ending? And for what reason? And so the top 3 is money, is sex, and we can unpack all of these, and it's communication. And those are the top 3.
So let's delve into those 3.
Right. So money, honey, Will and Jada is loaded. Like, I've seen an aerial view of their property, and I was like, this is freaking stupid. Like, stupid, amazingly great. You know, and they both worked very hard in their career to get to this level. But when you are not on that level, and even if you are, how you manage your money is important in relationships. Right? And so we bring in our baggage, our upbringing into our relationships. And so how you handle money, or how you saw your parents or your caregivers handle money, is probably how you handle money, right? And so understanding that you have spending habits, you have saving habits, you got all of these things that you're bringing into your relationship, and that may look very differently than your partner, right? Like if we trying to save for a house and you buying red bottoms and Jordans, you know, that just might not be going towards the goal here, right? Or if you're a hoarder and you never want to spend any money because you're saving it up for a rainy day, that's also not the best way to live. And so just making sure that you and your partner are on the same page with how you spend money, how you save money, having financial goals and something that you're working towards is important. And also to like the whole difference in income level. Some people make more money than others, you know, and sometimes the woman makes the coin. Let's be clear. More coin.
Let's talk about that dynamic. How does that play out?
You know, it depends on how both of them are handling it, right? I had read something the other day or saw something on social media the other day where someone said that they know someone who is a prominent doctor. I mean, just making very great money, but she's also married to a cab driver. And clearly he doesn't make as much money as she does, but that's never been an issue in their relationship because he's confident in other areas that he provides, right? And I'm completely here for that. Like, I am completely here for it. So if a guy don't feel it some type of way, or he feels like it's not shots towards his manhood and the woman is fine with it, and there's an understanding, especially if you're married, that this is our life and our lifestyle, it's different than like, this my money, this your money, you only got a little bit, so don't come over here getting any of this, you know, like there's a mindset. So I think as long as that's clearly discussed, you'll be on a better track.
So that was relationship killer number 1 was money.
What?
Okay,
Two,
number 2.
sex, baby. Let's talk about sex, baby. Listen, like people think like, well, how can sex be a relationship killer? But oftentimes when you're not talking about sex, your wants, your needs, your desires, you think you're just amazing in bed. Or there's times and periods in people's relationships where they may not be highly sexual or have a high libido, or they may not want to have sex, or they may have just had a baby, or things change and shift in your relationship, right? This is the area you want to stay on top of, because what you will not do in the bedroom, someone else will.
Understand, not only are you a missus, you are a mommy and also a mogul. So wearing those 3 hats, how do you, because a lot of women aspire to have what looks like having it all. You have an amazing husband, beautiful family, and a successful thriving business. How do you handle wearing your superwoman cape in all 3 lanes?
Girl, I don't know. It doesn't feel like that to me. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to change my mindset to be, you know, nicer, you know, kinder to myself. You know, understanding that, you know, maybe I am above average. Where before, you know, I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me, because even in, you know, in the marriage, there's still issues in the marriage. You know what I mean? With my children, there's still times when they're naughty, and I'm like, can you please just get out of my face? You know what I mean? Or, you know, those moments where, you know, the business, I always want it to be doing better. And, you know, I'm of the type where, you know, I'm most definitely, I wouldn't call myself a perfectionist, but I would say that excellence is my standard, right? I mean, I was kind of raised where like a C is the same thing as getting an F. So, you know, and so, you know, like, and I remember my husband said, I'm like, an 86. I'm like, that's like a C. He's like, no, I think that's like a high B. And I'm like,
it is a high B.
I feel like anything below, you know what I mean? Anything below a 90% was just unacceptable. And so I understand having like these high expectations, and sometimes, you know, that doesn't give yourself enough grace. And and you should give yourself that. You know, we should be able to say, you know what, I am doing a pretty great job. You know, like this is pretty impressive what we're doing and what I'm doing. But I think, you know, even this morning, you know, Brandon and I were kind of like crying to each other, being like, you know, we have these amazing kids and we get to be around them all day. But there's still so much guilt you feel, you know, like even you're right now, right? Like, okay, I'm working, I'm doing this interview, you know, they're coloring, they want to show me things. Like, how can you explain to be like, I know you can see me, but
you can't
mommy's working,
right now.
you know what I mean?
and so those are the parts where, you know, we got to relax on ourselves a lot, you know, as women especially, and realize that they are not separate hats. You know, I don't get to segment my day and say like, okay, from 8 to noon, I'm going to be a businesswoman. And from 12 to 3, I'm going to be a mom. And then from 8 p.m. to midnight, then I'm going to be a wife. You know, it's one of these things where like, right, our crown is on a circle, on a pivot. And so all I can do is just keep turning it. You know, I never get to switch it out or take it off. You know, it's just, you are all things at all times.
Yeah.
And that's what we were made to be. We are the source. And that's what Brandon kept, you know, trying to get me to understand. Like, you know, Margaret, you're the source.
Yeah.
You know, we are the birthers. We take things and we, you know, bring out, right, that living water. That, you know what I mean? That the Bible talks about and do, right? Like, let it flow. Like, let it go through you.
We are the nucleus, you know, as women, we are the nucleus. If we are not right, nothing is right. So I encourage you to crown yourself, to give yourself a pat on the back, to understand that you are above average. You are sustaining and thriving and living in LA, which by itself is a pat on the back moment. You know what I'm saying?
One of the things actually I could say about Survivor and marriage is every couple needs to be able to leverage their strengths. So every human being has weaknesses and strengths, right? So how teams or tribes are strong is they look at the people on the tribe, and how you make it to the merge is we have to leverage the strongest people. Not even just strength. It's not even just strength. Because as you see, Survivor is not just about how strong you are. It's puzzles. It's like different kinds of it's different stuff. So you have to look at your tribe and say, what kind of strengths? Like, I should be able to name the strengths on my tribe and figure out how we can leverage those to make it as far as we can to the merge. Because when you get to the merge, it's a different kind of fight. It's not a tribal fight. It's every man for themselves, right?
Yes.
So it's like you have to be able to adjust to that. Marriage is going to call for the mental adjustment, right? There's going to be a time that you need to leverage each other's strengths. So I know I'm good at this. I know my husband is good at that. And together we make this, right? So my husband and I, like my husband does some weddings, but like weddings just aren't his thing. He's an introvert. Right, and if my husband does a wedding, he probably won't stay for the reception. He has no interest in that, you know? Not because he's mean, not because he doesn't like the couple. He's an introvert. Like, introverts want to do their job and go home.
And cut out.
I'm an extrovert. I'm coming, I'm doing your wedding, I'm staying for the whole thing, and I'm shutting the gym down. Like, I'm the last person out the door. Like, the janitor at the venue is going to know the names. Anybody's going to... I'm telling the bride, oh, you left this at the venue. Like, Roxy Wiley, like, that's just me. I talk to everybody. And so me and my husband, we both do the counseling together. And that brings great balance to counseling because not every person's like me. And not every person's like him. But together, we're able to kind of understand the couple better. You know what I mean? So I found it to be very helpful in my business to choose to do the team counseling, right? My husband and I, the couple.
Yeah.
And I find it to be very beneficial that way. And so my company is designed in a way where I understand how to leverage the strength of my relationship for the sake of my business.
Yes.
And that's why even though I might have associates who do weddings, we don't have anyone that do our premarital or marital counseling. It's only him and I.
It's you two. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so it's only him and I. There's no more affordable version of it. This is it's a very boutique service, and we plan on it continuing to be boutique until we figure out how to really coach people through the process. That's how we like to do it. We like our couples to have the husband and wife team when it comes to counseling. I find it to be beneficial. I find it to be a rich experience. And so the one thing I can say I learned from Survivor, how to survive, how to thrive, is to understand what your weaknesses and strengths are. Be honest with yourself. So when I see like Instagram come up, where people just act like they, you know, like I'm all things to all people. I'm like, you're a joke because nobody can be all things to all people. You can be a lot of things to a lot of people, but you can't be all things to all people, right? And the faster you understand that is the more successful in life you will be. People who win Soul Survivor are people who are highly aware of themselves, their strengths, and the people around them. Those are the people who win every single season. They know the people they know the people they need to get voted out. They know the people who they think are their actual competition, and they know how to navigate them. You know, they don't have their Soul Survivors aren't people who are the strongest, the biggest, the this, the that. If you think about it, if you look at all the Soul Survivors over the history of Survivor, they look different. They're different people, you know. And you're like, I would never thought this person would win, or this old person, or this young person, or this. You know, they look different for a reason to show you that it's about the kind of awareness you have, you know, and how you navigate knowing that.
Yeah.
So, metaphorically speaking, I learned that like a perennial plant, it grows its structure and it adapts to year. It adapts year to year, and it has specialized stems and crowns that go into dormancy.
Okay.
The cold winter months and the dry season, so it goes into dormancy, and then it kind of leaves off where it left off. It starts off where it left off for the next year. Now, it has that structure, and it takes from the roots. The roots are deep, and it just grows back. And whereas an annual, so you have your annual plants that come up every year, so they don't survive the winter, but they produce seeds for the next generation.
Oh, wow.
They may not be able to keep that structure, but they're able to produce seeds so you can put out more. So I look at it like, okay, you just have to know when your season is. You have to know your season. You're like, okay, I need to go into dormancy real quick. I need to rest. It's not time for me to just keep putting my energy out to grow when it's not the right conditions for growth. So that has taught me a lot. Like,
Tabitha says, you better teach.
Oh,
Look, I was like, you better teach.
That's me out there at the watch.
I love that. Teaching nature and how it relates to your own journey and your own story. And it is, you know, you do risk losing the attention and the appeal by having and acknowledging your dormant season, which I think for you was really important because it did allow you to step back, reevaluate what does Mariah want. Not what do these brands want and what check and whatever, but, or what do my followers want? What does Mariah want? And being able to present a harvested, authentic version of yourself, I think is the best gift you could have given us.
Yeah.
You know, and for me personally, to see you grow through so much and still blossom, you know, it's amazing. But you were saying, I think we were talking about being black in a predominantly white fashion.
Yes, and so I have had times where I've had to, you know, kind of do my own hair because, like I said, a lot of artists and hairstylists are just not trained to work with our hair. And yes, they should be held accountable to know how to work with all hair types, but at the same time, I think we also have to embrace our hair and wear it more. You know what I mean? It's just, like you said, it's just now becoming a thing where almost like a trend to have like natural hair. And you know, I went natural in my early 20s, and that was my first time seeing my natural hair and, you know, really seeing it full and my whole head natural. And so I was blown away by not ever even knowing my own hair type for 20 years. You know?
And I think that's part of the issue is we're still learning our hair. So to expect, you know, people in the industry, stylists, to understand just right out of the gates how to handle our hair is, you know, it's going to be trial and error. So what are some things that you do, you know, when you've shown up on set and, you know, the stylist is of the Caucasian persuasion, you know, and you know that they just not going to get those edges laid right. Like, what are some things that you do to ensure that you ultimately, because you want to make your client happy and give them the look that they are hoping for. So what are some things you do?
I definitely have started to show up to set with my own product, or my own hot tone, and in a very delicate
professional way, let them know, this is what you use and this is how you use it. And you might want to add it to your kit. But next time, now that someone has shown you and now someone's brought it to you, there's no excuse.
So speaking of, the fact that you have 2 little ones and they're curly, cutie, how do you, encourage them to embrace their curls?
So it's such a funny journey with their curls. So in my family, anybody that see my sisters, see my family, like the Preston genes are strong. Like we couldn't deny each other if we wanted to. My husband is biracial. His mother is brown skin and his dad is white. So when I was pregnant, I was like, look, there's a wide range of potential genes that can be manifested with these kids.
Yes.
But above all, and and especially in light of what's going on, like my son is watching TV and he's like, he understands Black Lives Matter. Like I talk to him really as an adult, like he's a little person. I try to make it, of course, age appropriate and things that he can understand and digest. But we have pretty straight up honest conversations, and even with my son and my daughter, explaining the Black diaspora and the Black experience to a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. My 3-year-old was like, well, I'm not Black. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am, you are. Like let's be 100% clear about this. But she, in her, 2.5, 3-year-old mind at the time, she's thinking like literal, like Black.
The color.
White. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so she's trying to figure out like, well, where she fits in there. And, and so explaining that and telling her to, love her hair and, the compliments of your beautiful brown eyes and your beautiful curly hair. Representation matters. So while she has redheaded Ariel and, Anna and Elsa, she also has Moana and Princess Jasmine and just a diversity of dolls.
Yes.
And at all times, it's probably overkill. I mean, if anybody actually heard us, they'd be like, lady, we get it. But it's just really like an affirmation of, who she is. And my son, of course. But I think that there's something special and magical that like Black girls need in particular. I just try to really pour into them and make sure that they understand how special they are. And, even with their curly hair, people kind of make assumptions about them being in Miami, and I'm like, no, we're Black. Like, let's not,
Yes.
We are. And I'm trying to make sure that they take pride in that. That is something that they say proudly, that there's never a desire to try to blend in and be ambiguously brown. No,
yes.
It's like, you are Black, you stand in that, you live in that, we own it, we are happy to be Black. Black is beautiful. And we come in all different colors and shapes and sizes and hair texture. It's all Black. It's all family. And now, like my son said something the other day, he was like, he put up his little fist, and I was like, my work here is done. I'm done.
Bow out. You can bow out now. I love that, and you're so right, because I'm from Indiana originally, relocated to South Florida, and it is an undertone that just being Black is not enough. Because 100%. They're like, oh, what are you? Well, I'm Black.
I'm Black.
Okay, well, are you Jamaican? Are you Cuban? Are you Haitian? I'm just Black, you know? And so you do feel a little bit like, well, dang, maybe I'm not as colorful as everybody else because they have all this, ethnicity running through them. And of course, we can get into genealogy and all of that, and I'm sure there's a tad of this and a tad of that and a bit of everybody. But I love that you empower your children to just understand that it is enough to simply be Black.
Yeah.
Leadership has played a huge role in this pandemic globally. Watching how other leaders have handled this pandemic has been, a bit of, I'm a little jealous. But speaking of our leader, his niece recently wrote a book, and it's called Too Much and Never Enough: How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. And she says at the root of President Trump's narcissism it's triggered to his estranged niece. His childhood was scarred by emotional abuse. He suffered at the hands of his father, who was a sociopath, and his mother's absence, and all of these things contributed to his narcissism. But I think what he is most masterful at is his ego. And how he lies and makes himself believe his lies to boost himself to be more than what he is. Narcissism is a buzzword that people have thrown around a lot. And I think a lot of people, use it as an insult, but they don't really understand the severity of the mental intensity of narcissism. So what has been your take on identifying when you're engaging with a narcissist?
So, like you said, this narcissism right now seems to be a pandemic within itself. Right?
Yes.
We've got the health pandemic with COVID-19. We've got the race pandemic happening, and then we've got the pandemic of narcissism.
Yes.
And there are people who can have narcissistic traits and not have narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay.
Your president definitely has narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. but when it comes to the disorder, how do I say this? There are, and I'm sure there's a whole lot more, but basically there's like 9 different traits or characteristics, and if they have 5 of them, then they have narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay.
So I can read them off quickly for you.
Yes. Walk us through the 9, because I need to know who I'm engaging with.
All right. Okay. So a narcissist has an exaggerated sense of self or self-importance. A narcissist believes that they are special or unique. A narcissist requires excessive admiration. A narcissist has a sense of entitlement. A narcissist lacks empathy. A narcissist is envious of others and believes that others are envious of them. A narcissist behaves in an arrogant and naughty manner. A narcissist is preoccupied with fantasies of success and the perfect mate. And a narcissist takes advantage of others. So,
girl, I was getting nervous because I checked 3 of the boxes. I was like, wait a minute.
Like I said, we can have narcissistic traits, especially in today's day and age with social media and all these different things. But that doesn't mean that you have narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay, all right, good.
So just think about the relationships that you have or you engage with people or that you see other people engaging in. And if they have 5 of those 9 traits, then you just need to be very, very, very careful. And I have had, I'm going to say, way too much experience dealing with narcissists because they're attracted to empaths, and I'm an empath, right?
Yes, me too.
Yeah. So it can become a situation where, so like you said, with President Trump, his childhood traumas. Many of us have experienced some kind of trauma. And a lot of the childhood traumas that these narcissists experience create who they are today. But then us empaths, we have also experienced traumas that need healing.
Ooh.
So when you have engaged, especially on a relationship level, as an empath with a narcissist, because they are attracted, once the narcissist or the empath realizes that they've had this experience and they've experienced what they call narc abuse, which is like psychological abuse, and it can come with like financial abuse, physical abuse, all kinds.
Gaslighting.
Oh, girl, we can go
making
through all
you
the
think
terms.
you're crazy.
We will
Yes.
go through all the terms. But after you've experienced all that, you kind of become obsessed with learning about it so that you don't fall into it again. But as much as we need to understand so that we don't, reconnect with another narcissist or engage with them on that level, we also need to work on our own healing, right? That's where I'm at right now. I am definitely on my healing journey, but I am studying them as much as possible because I am not trying to encounter another.
Yes. Part of that conditioning is rooted in colorism, which is something I want to talk about with you today. Now, Good Morning America posted an article last week about colorism. And, of course, I think we've all heard that she's pretty for a dark-skinned girl, compliment, if that's what you want to call it. And for those that don't know, colorism just equates to prejudice or discrimination based on skin color. So, according to research on skin color and discrimination and wages, hourly pay can vary among African Americans as skin tone lightens. So, for example, a dark-skinned African American woman was quoted an average of $11.72, compared to a light-skinned African American at $14.72, which then, of course, leads to a white person at $15.94. How do we not only navigate through the coronavirus, through the racial disparities, the police brutality, but also colorism amongst our own culture?
Good question.
Talk about it. Bring it to
Good
me.
question. Honestly, sis, when it comes to, we know that we live in a system, right? And the system, it was not created for us to be successful in. And so on that part of it, I say that's where it's important for us as a community to open doors and create seats at the table for women of all colors. It's up to us to do that, because there's so many battles we're fighting with this system, layers just getting justice for Black people in general, that the conversation, I just feel like talking about dark-skinned women versus light-skinned women is just falling on deaf ears right now. Like, that's just not even something that we need to be dealing with right now, But as far as our own community goes, that's our responsibility. Not only does it begin in the homes, it begins in the homes with the mothers and the fathers, instilling in dark-skinned girls that they are powerful and still beautiful and all of those things. So, ultimately how you feel, it doesn't matter what other people think. You may run into adversity and oppression and things like that, but if you are confident in yourself, you will navigate it. Like, okay, you don't want to open that door for me, but I know that I'm bad. I know that I'm confident. I know that I'm capable. So I'm going to create a seat for myself. I'm going to build my own table to where I can be celebrated and acknowledged and where I can succeed. As far as our own community goes, yes, we do have to acknowledge the part we play in that, because for a long time we have played that part. I think that now dark-skinned girls are starting to get like their shine the way that they have always supposed to have gotten it, but we played a part. From music videos to all of that, the songs, the lyrics and songs, all of those things have played a part into how Black women have felt about themselves. As a darker skinned Black girl, I struggled with that too. Like, growing up, just feeling like, I wasn't enough. Where if I question, like, well, if I was lighter skinned, would I have gotten that opportunity? Those questions have crossed my mind, and that's unfortunate, but it's real. And so I would just say that we navigate that first by, again, just knowing that we're beautiful regardless of what society says, because we know that the definition of beauty is coming from a broken system. We cannot rely on this system to tell us what beauty is. Absolutely. That's first and foremost. Like, that's like listening to a crackhead tell you how to be healthy. Exactly. That's silly. Like, so that's first and foremost. And then I would just say, secondly, just again, creating platforms for women of all shapes, size, colors, in order for them to see that they matter, that they have purpose, that they can be successful regardless of their skin color, because your talents, your ability, the way that you speak, how you love people, how you give to people, your skin color has nothing to do with that. Absolutely. Just nothing to do with that. So we just have to, like I said, we have to take care of our own, is what I would say.
I totally agree. But like you said, build our own tables. But even beyond that, when you getting in the door, getting a seat at the table, when you get a seat at the table, make a seat for another one. I think we've falsely kind of taken pride in being the only one in the room. Like, I deserve to be here. I'm here, And I think that's a paradigm that needs to shift. It should be heartbreaking to be the only one. And that should be a goal of yours, to change that trajectory instead of taking pride in, like, look at me, I've made it amongst the elites and the whites and, whatever. It should be, with the intention of pulling someone else and pulling up a chair for someone else. And ultimately building enough chairs that you can build your own table. And then you get to dictate how many seats and who gets to sit with you, and then you guys can do something collectively. You know what I mean? I wanted to ask you, I had a conversation yesterday about having a seat at the table. A lot of times, I know as you navigate in your corporate world, you are the only one that looks like us in a lot of these major board meetings, in a lot of these community, city planning meetings and philanthropic meetings. So we discussed, when you get to the table, pull up the seat for someone else. How has that principle, or how have you been intentional with that principle when it comes to diversity and inclusion in your staffing?
And so a couple different things. I enjoyed that talk. And so
Thank you.
years ago, the National YMCA teaches an emerging multicultural leadership experience every year. And 2 or 3 years ago, it was called Claim Your Seat. And so literally it was 3 or 4 days of multicultural leadership development. And the theme was about pulling up a seat, building tables, bringing seats. If it's not a seat for you in the room, bring your seat. Pull up your fold-out chair out your trunk and make yourself a part of the table. And so as a result of that, I've always had the mindset to bring people along, and I'm super passionate about leadership development and mentoring and coaching. And so I always 100% try to navigate all of my environments in a diversity and inclusive mindset, but they're also bringing people along. And I do want to say, as you bring people along and as we navigate this world and this community and business and nonprofit, we got to be ready too. You know, because I also have pulled up a seat for somebody who wasn't ready. And so there is this piece that as I coach and lead and mentor people, I do call out. I call it out because, hey, I made a space for you here and I need you to bring it.
Yes.
And then there's this, especially in this current climate, I've been having some really real conversations after the death of George Floyd. To just say to people, you know, like the idea of I work harder, not an idea. You know, or navigating the spaces where I am, and sometimes my counterparts are, no, not you. You are, and describe all of the things that they say I am. And I'm like, you don't know how many times I have to do this. I have to do this. You don't know how many times I pull up in a meeting and I check my voice, I check my tone, I check my face. I try to make sure I have it all together. You don't know how many times I have to navigate you versus y'all. You know, you don't know how many things that I'm internally navigating in this seat. So then making sure that the people that I bring along with me understand, I recently told somebody, we have this like 753-page unwritten rules book that we carry around that our moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and the world has taught us that in order to be great and in order to be successful, I must know all of these things along the way. And although some people may not subscribe to that, in my experiences, I've had to know some of the unwritten rules to continue to grow and go in my career.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. I hear you for that. And another thing that you're a big proponent for is mentorship. I know in every city you go to, even cities you don't live in, when you're visiting, you try to make an intention of taking students under your wing. And you have students that still stay in touch with you from when you were in Louisville, from when you were in Indianapolis. Yes, you make it personal. So tell me, when did mentorship become such a big, you know, role for you, and who were your mentors?
You know what's so crazy? I probably been mentoring my entire life. I didn't know. You know what I mean? Didn't know that I had the spirit of mentorship in me. Even as early as like when I was doing college radio, and I had so many girls under me who were, you know, like, I want to do what you do, and they would just follow me around, and they became my friends, but I helped them do different things in life. But I think it really started in Louisville and going to those schools. And I remember I started this anti-bully campaign where I took students, it was like 10 students, and I gave them full makeovers. But after the makeovers, we sat in a circle and we tried to kill from the inner part. And so I remember one girl, she would cut herself all the time. We talked about that. She revealed that she had shoulders, she couldn't sleep. And another girl was like, I never had my hair done because we didn't have money. It was like certain things that they were going through. And it was their first time seeing themselves look like this. And then when you get to sit around and really have some therapy afterwards, it was really healing, not for just them, but me too, you know?
Exactly. That is so cool. Now, another recent, you know, very interesting trademark thing that kind of hit the scene was Nick Cannon made some comments that people didn't like. Viacom, you know, kind of was unsure if they were going to keep him in his contract for his show, Wildin' Out. Now, the question was, okay, well, Nick Cannon can take his show somewhere else. He can go to BET, he can go here, there, and everywhere. What people don't know is Viacom owns the rights to the name Wildin' Out. When it comes to Nick Cannon, he had been doing the show for years before he, you know, made that specific deal. Viacom didn't buy that, I think, until maybe a couple years ago.
2019, last year.
The show had been in existence. How did Nick fumble the play on that? And being that he has lawyers and a team and he has an empire, how did he miss that shot?
I want to meet Ken. I want to meet Nick and ask him that same question. Like,
okay,
buddy, who on your team? Who is you? Because sometimes too, you can have the wrong team players on your team, right? And they, you know, they be looking out for the other people and not looking out for you. So you gotta check who on your team too, and you gotta make sure they have your best interests at heart and not nobody else's.